Sinister by Vladimir Nabokov. Just finished reading it. I don't want to repeat what other people have said about it. Again, this review is basically for people who've already read the novel. I don't want to waste time, hashing the plot of the novel. You can get that from Google. You can get it from or type in on YouTube, Ben Sinister book review. You'll get any number of book reviews on Nabokov. Once again, I usually go to this book reviewer, Carol Wainwright. He did a book review of Ben Sinister, and pretty comprehensive to me. I don't think I have anything to add. So I'm just going to make some off-the-cuff observations as far as my reaction goes to my first reading of this novel. First of all, this is the most difficult work of fiction that I've ever read. I've read Penin by Nabokov. I've read Sebastian Knight and Lolita. And this one is much more difficult to read than those. I found this book to be much more difficult just from a stylistic point of view. The density of the sentences, I found it more difficult to read and to follow, a lot more difficult than Moby Dick. Moby Dick has long philosophical sections in it, but you can get through them pretty easily, just as long as you concentrate on them. Ben Sinister, I had to read some of these passages over 5-6 times, and again, this is just my first reading of it, and even then it didn't make any sense to me. I knew it made sense, but it was beyond me. So I Googled it. I would Google a phrase from a paragraph that I didn't understand, and believe it or not, even though it was Google, even though it was the internet, it helped to clarify a lot of stuff. I had to sort of do it that way. It was not an easy read or a fast-flowing read. This novel is not terribly plot-driven. I would say the plot doesn't really begin to kick in to any noticeable extent until you've read the first 70 pages of this thing. Very little happens for the first 70 pages. It is not, again, as the novel progresses, the plot, it reads faster, but it picks up momentum, put it that way. Is this novel, I've read Nabokov's introduction to his book, and he claims that this is not essentially a dystopian novel about totalitarian regimes. He says it's a novel primarily about Krug's relationship with his son in the face of this, in the environment of this horrible police state, or totalitarian, I don't know if police state is the right word, totalitarian regime. That's what he says. But I think it's pretty obvious that this is a dystopian novel. It's puzzling to me why he says it isn't. I'm not quite sure about that. But geniuses are so quirky. Who the heck knows how he sees his own work? A lot of authors talk about their own work, and I'm very mistrustful of an author talking about their own work. I just am. But clearly, to me, this is a dystopian novel. The actual sections of the amount of the novel is devoted to Krug's relationship with his son. are minimal compared to the maximal amount of time he spends talking about this equalist regime that Krug is living under. So I just don't see it that way. The interactions that Krug has with his son David are really kind of minimal to me. He goes on walks with David, and he's usually telling David, now we have to do this, now we have to do that, time to go to bed, time to eat, we have to take a walk now. It's confined to that, so I don't get, it's obvious that he loves his son terrifically, but is this the overweening element of the novel? I just didn't get that on my first reading of it. One thing that became immediately obvious to me in reading this novel was that Krug is betrayed by almost everybody he comes into contact with. It's much like Mother Night, which I read just before this. In Mother Night, everybody is not what they appear to be. A lot of people are just they're Soviet agents, spies, a Soviet agent, or they're just not. They're more than meets the eye. Nobody is unscathed by World War II and by the Nazi regime. And the same seems to go in this novel. I mean, when Krug wants to leave the country, the person he contacts, Peter Quist, turns out to be an agent for the equalist regime. He's not what he appears to be. His servant girl or maid, Marietta, she's the sister of an equalist spy or operative. She herself may or may not be an operative. Dr. Alexander, who we meet at the beginning of the book, well, he is an operative also for the regime. So I noticed that similarity between this and Mother Night. I mean, both of these books are extremely bleak. The worldview they have is extremely bleak. I think that Nabokov is dealing more specifically with a totalitarian regime, whereas Vonnegut is dealing just more with all of humanity. It's just he has a slightly different. I can't say it's a more cosmic point of view than Nabokov, but it's different. It's not just the Nazis during World War II. It's the aftermath. It's the main character Campbell's understanding of humanity as a whole, just the great failing of humanity. It's just different than Ben Sinister. I noticed also in this book, Ben Sinister, that Krug, like a lot of very bright people, intellectuals, they tend to not pay attention very much to the external world. They're so deeply entrenched in their own internal machinations and speculations about stuff that they don't pay attention to what's going on around them. I mean, Krug seems to have this he's very naive in a way. He has this notion that the equalist regime, that Paduk, won't touch him because he is such a world famous philosopher. He's the great man of the country that he lives in. And so he says, the Paduk and the equalist wouldn't dare touch me. he has this kind of hubris about him, which is, I guess that's his fatal flaw, because obviously the regime does touch him. They get to him through his son. Again, very, very bright people, philosophically bent people, tend to discount the impact that governments have on them. But what ends up happening in Ben Sinister is that it's kind of like the equalist regime and Paddock are like the Lilliputians in Gulliver's Travels. Little by little, Krug is checkmated. He begins to notice that everyone he comes into contact with, all of his friends, are arrested. He's left untouched. He's special, but they're all arrested. All of his contacts are arrested, and until eventually he is. So what begins as a peripheral concern to Krug, the totalitarian government, the external world, is actually what ends up driving him mad. That which he thought so little of, which he had nothing but contempt for, which he didn't take seriously. It is a contemptuous regime, like all totalitarian regimes, but he didn't take it seriously. And that was what bit him in the ass. There's a very, very interesting section of this book also. It's chapter 14 of the book. I also finished reviewing recently The Passion of G.H. by Clarice Lispector. And this chapter 14 is a kindred spirit to The Passion of G.H. It begins like this. He had never indulged in the search for the true substance, the one, the absolute, the diamond suspended from the Christmas tree of the cosmos. He had always felt the faint ridicule of the finite mind peering at the iridescence of the invisible through the prison bars of integers. I have to use glasses. This is such small print. And even if the thing could be caught, why should he, or anybody else for that matter, wish the phenomenon to lose its curls, its mask, its mirror, and become the bold noumenon? So obviously, this whole chapter, you can tell that Nabokov is quite familiar with philosophy. He's familiar with Kant, with his noumenon. He's familiar with Socrates. He eschews Krug, philosophical, not only political systems, but he eschews philosophical systems, because to him, a philosophical system is a joke. It's finite mortal man, for whom the infinite is totally beyond his ken, trying to understand the ineffable, the inexpressible. It can't be done. It's a joke to try to do that. And all philosophical systems are a joke in that respect. And Krug knows this. So in this sense, he is really in complete harmony with GH in the Passion of GH, and he's also in complete harmony with Gombrowicz in Cosmos. Man trying to make sense of the inherent chaos of the cosmos. And later on in this same chapter, he makes a very, very, I think it's really an overt reference to Socrates and Nietzsche's take on Socrates. Nietzsche's problem with Socrates was that Socrates was very, very good with his dialectical method at tearing down the existing beliefs of the people he would talk to in the marketplace. He's very good at tearing down stuff, but he's not really able to replace it with something else. He doesn't replace the vacuum that he has created with something else. And this is exactly what Krug is thinking to himself in this chapter. He's known worldwide for his shrewd, clever way of taking pot shots at all systems of thought. And he's become famous because of that. But deep down inside, Krug feels like a failure, because he himself knows better than anybody else that after he has taken pot shots at everything, like Socrates, what is he able to replace it with? He has a dream of saying something completely new, completely pristine, only to realize that when he tries to do this, he ends up with a bunch of cliches and triteness. He says this in this chapter. So this is a wonderful chapter. And again, I thought of Lispector and I thought of Gombrowicz. I'm not quite even sure why he includes this chapter in this book, except to show how far above the common man, how abstract Krug is, how brilliant Krug is. That's something else I immediately took note of. What else? The style of this book is, as I say, very dense. It's packed with all sorts of allusions that, there are scholars who pore over this text, coming up with all of the different allusions, all the different references, hidden, overt and hidden references in this book. It's like a compendium. You read a lot of these passages in Nabokov in this novel, and they don't make sense. Or I can't follow them. But they're not gibberish. There is a point to them. You just have to put the time in to understand them. Here's one particular passage that I'll read to you. He's got Blaise Pascal in here. He's speaking in French. He's talking about the constellations, Cepheus, and, he passes a woman in the hallway and she has a shawl on, and he likens the shawl to the constellations in the sky, including Cepheus and Cassiopeia, Capella, Polaris. I had to look them up, the whole story of Cepheus and Cassiopeia. He knows all about that. The constellations, he refers to his wife, Olga, his dead wife. It all makes sense. It's packed, jam-packed with stuff. How am I supposed to take this? I either think this is, as many people have said, I have to say to myself, Nabokov is simply showing off his genius here. It's inappropriate for him to be so egoistical. Or I'm thinking to myself, just the opposite. This is what genius looks like. It's jaw-dropping. I can't decide which it is, to be quite honest with you. It's not the kind of a book that you can read on the beach, summer reading, and it's not the kind of a book you can just read once also. You know, I always find it tremendously amusing that serious book reviewers on YouTube are always so paranoid about spoilers. You know, they begin their YouTube book review by saying, spoiler alert, there will be spoilers here, or okay, at this point now, turn away because there will be a spoiler. I can't understand why anyone who is interested in reading serious literature, great literature, why they would be concerned about a spoiler as a reader. Reading a book like Moby Dick, or like Ben Sinister, or Lolita, I mean, this is not like going to the movies to watch a murder mystery where you don't want the spoiler. You don't want the ending to be known. It'll ruin your enjoyment of the movie. That's not what great literature is. It's not a movie, a Hollywood movie, great literature. You read great literature, if it's really great, you read it a lot. So you read it more than once. You go to a movie, you got the spoiler. You go to a movie, a mystery movie, an Agatha Christie movie or book. You know what happened. You know who done it. You never come back to it again. Or maybe you'll come back to the movie again because the explosions are so great in the last part of the movie. Or maybe you'll come back to it because you like the car chase and Bullet or something. Great literature is not like this. Who gives a damn whether there's a spoiler or not? These books are meant to be read and reread and read and read and read. So I don't understand that with a book like Ben Sinister. It's impossible to review a book or even talk about it without divulging information. That's just the way it is for me. So what else do I want to say about this book? This is such a lousy review, but what can you say about this book? You know, I mean, it's not a book to review. It's a book that you need to study and pore over. Oh, yes. The only other thing I'm going to say about this in this embarrassing review of mine is would Vladimir Nabokov have been published in 2026 if he hadn't written Lolita? Would he have been published? Would he have been recognized by any publishers? Well, I think the answer to that is very clear. No. If Vladimir Nabokov had submitted his book, first of all, you can't even submit a book to a publisher nowadays. You have to give them a stupid query or something. You know, the market is so inundated with hack pieces of writing. They don't even want that. And if by some miracle a publisher actually got hold of a manuscript by Nabokov, and if they read a passage like I just did about Cepheus and Cassiopeia, I mean, I think this would have been tossed in the garbage pail. I literally think that in this day and age, after all of the concerted effort that's been done over the last 30 or 40 years, and particularly the last 10 years, to dumb us down. I think reading Nabokov would be beyond the ken, not only of readers, but beyond the ken of publishers. I think he would just, nobody would ever have known who he is, ever. We would never know that a Nabokov even existed. It's that simple. That's what I get from reading a book of this quality. I mean, when you read Ben Sinister, and when you read, I mean, like I said, I've read four of his books now. And when you read his novels, it's like taking a trip to the Himalayas, where every one of the peaks is above 8,000 meters. You just kind of look at them. I mean, who really cares if Ben Sinister is a flawed novel, or it has certain defects, or he goes over the top, as some people say, if he's showing off too much his verbal facility, as some people say, which is arguable. Who cares? You're looking at an 8,000 meter peak. That's kind of the way I feel about these books by Nabokov that I've been reading. So that's it. I'm sorry.